A leather sack of mountain gold was supposed to buy Asa Flint 78 acres of Idaho dirt. Instead, when the county clerk stamped the deed, Asa bought something no decent man would ever claim: a woman. Locked beneath a granary floor, chained by the ankle, and listed in the fine print as an obligation attached to the land. Asa had come down from the mountains to stop living like an animal. Before sundown, he would be forced to decide whether he was willing to die like one. The town of Quartz Gulch had been thawing for 3 miserable days. By April of 1883, the main street was no longer a street. It was a brown river of wagon ruts, mule waste, coal ash, and melting snow. Asa Flint hated it. He had spent 12 years above the timberline, trapping marten, dressing elk in the cold, and sleeping under spruce branches with a rifle across his chest. Civilization smelled worse to him than any wolf den. But a man can get tired of silence. He was 39 years old, wide through the shoulders, 6'3" in his moccasins, with a beard the color of burnt cedar and hands that looked more like tools than flesh. In the mountains, men spoke of him the way they spoke of bad weather. You did not invite Asa Flint. You endured him. But Asa had come to Quartz Gulch for one peaceful thing: land. Not much, just enough to plant oats, keep a milk cow, and wake up in a room with 4 walls instead of under a snow-loaded pine. Tied to his belt was a buckskin sack filled with raw placer gold. 12 winters of work. 12 winters of frozen fingers and empty traps, all resting against his hip. At 10 in the morning, the county held a forced sale on the courthouse steps. The listing was called Willow Creek Parcel 9. 78 acres, a cabin, a half-collapsed barn, 1 granary, a dry well, 3 head of cattle, and all lawful fixtures, tools, stock, claims, and bonded obligations found upon the property. That last phrase was read fast, too fast. The clerk, Abel Storrs, stood behind a pine table with ink on his cuffs and greed in his eyes. Opening bid, $400. The cattlemen laughed at first. The farm had belonged to Wade Mercer, a drunkard, a card cheat, and a coward, who had vanished 2 nights earlier with somebody else's mule. Nobody wanted his ruin. Then Asa raised one hand. $400. A bank agent bid $5. A rancher bid $7. Asa did not blink. $9. The crowd turned. At 1100, the bank agent stepped back. At 1400, the rancher spat into the mud and quit. Asa untied the buckskin sack from his belt and dropped it on the table. The sound silenced the whole street. 1,800 in dust and nuggets, Asa said. Count it if you need to. I want the deed. Storrs smiled the way a fox smiles at a sleeping henhouse. He signed 3 papers, pressed the county seal into wax, and slid the deed across the table. Just like that, Asa Flint became a landowner. For the first mile out of town, he let himself believe he had bought peace. The sky was hard blue. The last snow held in streaks along the ridges. Willow Creek ran high and silver through the flats. For the first time in years, Asa imagined a stove, a chair, bread on a table, maybe even the sound of another human voice that did not come from behind a saloon door. Then he saw the farm. The cabin leaned like it was ashamed to be standing. The roof sagged. The fence had been burned for firewood. The pasture was choked with dead weeds and frozen manure. Asa sat on his horse for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Well," he muttered, "dirt's still dirt." He led his horse toward the granary, hoping at least the boards were worth saving. The door was barred from the outside. That was wrong. He lifted the timber bar, pulled the door open, and was met by a smell of sour grain, mouse droppings, and old fear. Something moved beneath the floor. Asa froze. Not a rat, not a dog, a breath. A human breath, small and panicked, coming from under the loose planks near the back wall. He drew his Colt. "Come out." No answer. Only a scrape of iron. Asa lowered the revolver. He knelt, hooked 2 fingers under a warped plank, and ripped it free. Below the floor was a crawl space no higher than a coffin. In it lay a young woman curled against the foundation stones. She could not have been more than 24. Her brown hair had been hacked short at one side. One eye was swollen dark. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, mud stiff, and far too thin for the cold. An iron shackle bit into her left ankle. The chain ran through a ring hammered into a cedar post. When she saw Asa's face in the hole above her, she covered her head with both arms. "Please," she rasped, "tell Wade I stayed quiet." Asa did not move. The mountains had taught him what wounded animals do when cornered. They bite or they break. This woman looked too tired for either. "What's your name?" She trembled so hard the chain rattled again. "Lena." "Lena what?" "Lena Mercer." The name struck him. Mercer. Wade Mercer's wife. Asa looked at the deed folded inside his coat. Then he looked at the chain. The world seemed to tilt under his boots. "Did he lock you down there?" She swallowed. "He said the debt had to be paid by something." Asa climbed into the crawlspace. Lena recoiled so violently she struck her shoulder against stone. He stopped. "Easy. I am not Wade Mercer." She stared at him, unbelieving. Asa took a cold chisel from his belt pouch, set it against the rusted link nearest the ring, and raised the back of his hatchet. The first blow rang through the granary. The second cracked the link. The third broke it. The chain dropped into the dirt. Lena stared at her freed ankle like it belonged to someone else. Asa wrapped his coat around her shoulders. It swallowed her whole. Then he read the deed again. Not the bold words, the fine print. Property transfers with all fixtures, tools, stock, dependent service contracts, outstanding household liens, and bonded obligations attached thereto. Dependent service contracts. Asa had seen crooked paper before. Mining claims salted with false ore. Timber deeds written over Indian ground. Banknotes that turned $1 of debt into 50. But he had never seen a clerk turn a woman into a fixture. His stomach hardened into stone. He lifted Lena out of the crawlspace as if she weighed nothing. She whispered, "Are you taking me back?" Asa looked toward Quartz Gulch. No. I am taking you where somebody with a license can look at your wounds. Then I am going to teach that clerk how to read his own paper. Dr. Ezra Vale kept his office above the freight depot, where the floor shook every time a wagon rolled past. Asa kicked the door open with Lena in his arms. The doctor started to protest. Then he saw her face. Good Lord! Treat her, Asa said, setting a gold nugget on the desk. No laudanum unless she asks. No men in this room except you. And if Wade Mercer comes through that door, shoot him. Dr. Vale looked at the nugget, then at Asa, then at Lena. I have a shotgun under the washstand. Good. Asa turned and went back into the street. He did not go to the saloon, not yet. He went to the courthouse. Clerk Abel Storrs was still at his table, counting gold dust into paper folds. Asa crossed the room in 5 strides and slapped the deed down so hard the inkwell jumped. You sold me a woman. The clerk went pale. Mr. Flint, you purchased Parcel 9 in full accordance with territorial procedure. Asa leaned over the table. I purchased land. You purchased the estate. I found Lena Mercer chained under the granary. Storrs's mouth worked, but no sound came out. From the judge's chamber behind him, another voice answered. Then Mercer left her where the law required him to. Judge Warren Pike stepped into the room, buttoning his vest, a small man with oiled hair and eyes that never stayed still. His brother, Orrin Pike, owned the Iron Rose Saloon, the freight line, the jail feed contract, and half the debts in Quartz Gulch. The judge picked up the deed and tapped the fine print. Wade Mercer owed my brother $640 in carrying interest. His wife entered the territory under a bonded domestic contract. Mercer assigned that obligation to the estate. Ugly, perhaps, but binding. Asa stared at him. She is not binding. She is bleeding. The judge's face tightened, then renounced the deed. Asa went still. Storrs saw the trap and looked down. Judge Pike continued softly. If you renounce the deed, the parcel defaults to the senior creditor. That would be Orrin Pike. The land becomes his. The contract becomes his. The woman becomes his concern. Asa understood then. The auction had not been an accident. It had been a wash basin for dirty paper. Let some stranger buy the farm. Let the county pretend the transaction was clean. Then let Orrin Pike collect what he truly wanted. Asa's fingers closed into a fist. Write her free. I cannot. You mean you will not? The judge stepped closer. Mr. Flint, you are a mountain man with a sack of yellow dust and no friends in this town. My brother has 14 armed men and the sheriff. Be grateful you still have your farm. Asa picked up the deed. For one heartbeat, he imagined tearing it in half. Then he saw the crawl space again. Lena's hands over her head, her voice asking if she was being taken back. He folded the deed and put it inside his coat. No, Asa said, I will keep the paper. The judge smiled. A wise choice. Asa's voice dropped. It is not for me. He walked to the door, then turned. "Tell your brother the woman under that paper is under my roof now. If he wants to argue over property, he can come stand in front of my rifle and say the word out loud." For 3 weeks, Willow Creek changed by inches. Asa replaced the cabin door, then the stovepipe, then the rotten sill under the east wall. He patched the roof with cedar shakes and dug the well clear of dead leaves. He hauled the ruined bed outside and burned it. Lena slept inside. Asa slept in the barn. The first night, she wedged a chair under the cabin door and stayed awake until dawn. The second night, she slept for 1 hour. By the fifth, she slept until the rooster screamed. Asa never entered without knocking. He left food on the porch: venison stew, cornmeal, coffee, a blue wool shawl from the mercantile still folded in paper. When he spoke, he used short sentences and kept his hands where she could see them. Water is boiled. Door latch is fixed. Horse will not kick if you stand at his shoulder. That was all. Lena did not thank him at first. She had learned that thanking men invited them to decide they were owed something. But she watched. She watched him sleep on the barn floor while frost silvered the grass. She watched him turn his back when she crossed the yard. She watched him nail boards with the same careful patience he used to pour coffee, as if strength was only worth having when it did not need to announce itself. One morning, after the bruising had faded yellow along her jaw, she opened the cabin door. Asa was splitting cedar near the fence. She carried a tin cup in both hands. Steam curled into the cold. "You will turn to ice out here, Mr. Flint." Asa lowered the axe. For a moment, he looked almost frightened. Then he took the cup. Their fingers touched. Lena did not pull away. "Thank you," he said. She nodded toward the barn. "The roof still leaks over your blanket." "I know." "You could sleep by the stove." Asa looked toward the cabin door, then back at her. "Not until you decide that door is yours." Lena's throat tightened. No man had ever given her a door before. The peace lasted until the 9th day of May. That afternoon, dust rose on the road from Quartz Gulch. 4 riders came through it. Orrin Pike rode in front on a black gelding, dressed too finely for mud, with a pearl-handled revolver on his hip and a red silk cravat at his throat. Behind him rode 3 hired men with short coats, hard eyes, and rifles across their saddles. Asa set down the fence rail in his hands. Lena stepped onto the porch. Orrin smiled at her as if Asa were not standing there. "Mrs. Mercer, you look improved." She went white. Asa moved between them. "This is private land." "Of course," Orrin said. "And you have made a pretty little homestead of it." He drew a folded paper from his coat. Unfortunately, Wade Mercer's final interest penalty was not included in the sale. $640, compounded through the day of abandonment. Since you have already paid for the land, the only remaining collateral is the bonded party. He looked past Asa. "I have a room waiting at the Iron Rose." Asa's hand moved to the rifle leaning against the fence. "Say that again." Orrin's smile thinned. "The woman comes with us." Asa lifted the Winchester. The three hired men tensed. Lena gripped the porch post, shaking, but she did not hide. Asa did not aim at Orrin's heart. He aimed at the silver watch chain across his vest. The shot cracked the valley open. Orrin shouted as the watch exploded against his chest, showering his coat in brass and glass. His horse reared sideways. Asa worked the lever again. The next shot does not go through jewelry. Orrin fought his horse under control, face gray with rage. You think a cabin and one rifle make you law? No, Asa said. I think they make me the first thing between you and her. Orrin pointed a shaking finger at him. At dark, I come back with enough men to bury this place. I will burn your roof, hang you from your own well beam, and drag her out through the ashes. Asa watched the riders turn back toward town. Only when the dust fell did he lower the rifle. Then he looked at Lena. Pack food, take my horse, ride east to Fort Hall. Ask for the federal marshal. Lena did not move. Did you hear me? I heard you. Then go. No. Asa stared. Lena's voice trembled, but it did not break. I ran from Missouri. I ran from Wade. I ran until running was the only thing I knew how to do. I am done being carried from one man's paper to another man's door. Asa looked at her as if seeing something under the bruises that had been there all along. Steel. Not polished, not loud, but steel. He went into the cabin and returned with a Navy revolver. He held it out, butt first. If you stay, you do not stand behind me and pray. You load. You aim center. You shoot until the hand trying to take you lets go. Lena took the gun. Her fingers shook around the grip. I can do that. By sunset, Willow Creek was no longer a farm. It was a barricade. Asa stacked grain sacks beneath the windows. He braced the door with fence posts. He filled every lamp, soaked blankets in water, and set loaded rifles along the kitchen wall. Lena melted lead over the stove and poured bullets into a mold, with hands blackened by smoke. Outside, the sky bruised purple over the ridges. Inside, neither of them spoke much. There are moments before violence when words become too small to carry what is coming. At full dark, the dogs in the valley began to bark. Then came hooves. Not 4, not 10, more. Asa peered through a slit beside the shutter. Torches moved between the cottonwoods like pieces of fallen fire. Orrin Pike had brought 21 men, drunks, debt collectors, 2 deputy badges, a miner with blasting caps tied around his belt. Orrin's voice carried from the dark. Flint, send out the woman and keep your dirt. Asa lifted the Winchester. Lena closed the loading gate on a revolver. No one answered. Orrin laughed. Fine, smoke them. A torch arced through the dark and landed against the porch wall. Asa shot the man who threw it. The valley erupted. Guests chewed through the cabin. A lamp exploded against the back wall. Lena kicked dirt over the flame, then slid a loaded revolver across the floor to Asa without being asked. He fired from the north window, then the east, then through a gap above the stove. Every shot he took had a reason: a muzzle flash, a torch, a boot crossing open ground. Men outside began to curse him, then fear him. For nearly an hour the cabin held. Then Asa heard the word that turned his blood cold. "Powder!" Through the smoke he saw two men crawling along the ditch with a crate of mining charges. If that powder reached the wall, the cabin would fold inward like a kicked crate. Asa turned to Lena. "Cellar." "No." "Lena." She saw his face and understood. He was not giving an order. He was saying goodbye. Before she could grab him, Asa unbarred the front door and stepped into the open with both hands raised. "Pike!" he shouted. "You want me? Here I am." The men in the ditch stopped. The guns shifted toward him. A rifle butt struck the back of his skull before he saw who swung it. White pain burst behind his eyes. He went to one knee. Then another blow drove him into the mud. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was Lena screaming his name. But Lena did not go into the cellar to hide. She went because the cellar had a drain trench. 3 weeks earlier, Asa had cleared it with a shovel and cursed the whole time. It ran under the back foundation, through nettles, and out behind the ruined granary. Lena crawled through mud, smoke, and rat bones, with the revolver clenched in one hand and the deed clenched in the other. Above her, men dragged Asa away. They thought the woman was trapped in the cabin. They thought paper had made her slow. They were wrong. By dawn, Quartz Gulch had gathered for a hanging. Asa woke chained to the iron scale outside the Iron Rose saloon. The scale was used to weigh ore wagons. That morning it weighed a man. His ribs burned when he breathed. His left eye was sealed half shut. His shirt was brown with dried blood. Orrin Pike stood on the boardwalk with a glass of whiskey, showing the town the watch chain Asa had shot apart. "Attempted murder," Orrin said loudly, "horse theft, destruction of lawful property, killing hired officers of the peace." The sheriff read the charges from a paper he had not written. The crowd listened in the sick silence of people who know the truth and have already decided it is safer not to say so. Then the saloon doors opened. 2 men dragged out a woman in Lena's blue shawl. Her face was hidden by the hood. Asa's stomach dropped. Orrin leaned close. "She looks less proud this morning, doesn't she?" Asa strained against the chain until iron bit his wrists. The hooded woman did not lift her head. Orrin raised his voice. "The bonded party will be remanded to the Iron Rose until the remaining debt is settled." The crowd shifted. A few women looked away. Asa bowed his head, not in defeat, but because the rage inside him had become too large for his body. Then a shotgun fired into the sky at the far end of the street. Horses pushed through the mud. At their head rode Federal Marshal Gideon Rusk, gray-coated, broad-hatted, and calm in the way only dangerous men can afford to be calm. Beside him rode Dr. Ezra Vale, and behind them, on Asa's big roan horse, rode Lena Mercer. Alive, bareheaded, mud on her face, deed in her hand. The hooded woman on the boardwalk suddenly twisted free and flung back the shawl. It was not Lena. It was Maggie Keene, a laundress from behind the freight depot, with a bruise on her cheek and fury in both eyes. "You grabbed the wrong woman, Orrin," she shouted. The town erupted. Orrin's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the boards. Marshal Rusk rode straight to the ore scale. "Sheriff," he called, "unlock that man." The sheriff looked at Orrin. That was his mistake. Rusk drew one pistol and aimed it without hurry. "I did not ask your owner." The sheriff dropped the keys. Lena dismounted and walked into the street, holding up the deed. Her voice was hoarse, but every person heard it. "This paper was used to chain me." Marshal Rusk took the deed, opened a leather field book, and read from a folded federal notice. Debt peonage was outlawed by Congress in 1867. No territorial officer, creditor, husband, clerk, or judge may classify a human being as collateral for private debt. He turned the deed toward the crowd. Willow Creek Parcel 9 was paid in full. The debt claimed by Orrin Pike is fraudulent. The woman named in this contract is free. Asa Flint holds lawful title to the land, and every officer who helped create this lien is under federal arrest. For the first time in years, Quartz Gulch heard silence fall on Orrin Pike. Not fear, not obedience. Silence. The kind that comes when a man who has owned every room suddenly realizes the room has walls. Orrin drew. He was fast. Marshal Rusk was faster. But Asa was already moving. He ripped one wrist free by driving the chain across the sharp corner of the ore scale, tearing skin with iron. Orrin's first shot went wild. Asa surged off the scale like a bear breaking a trap. He hit Orrin before the second shot. Both men crashed through the saloon doors. Inside, chairs overturned. A mirror shattered. Someone screamed. Orrin reached for the fallen revolver. Asa stamped on his wrist. The bone cracked. Then Asa lifted him by the collar and slammed him onto the poker table, scattering cards, coins, and whiskey across the floor. Every hired man inside the iron rows saw Asa Flint standing there, bleeding, one eye swollen shut, chain still hanging from his wrist. One by one, they dropped their guns. Asa looked down at Orrin Pike. For a moment, the whole town waited to see if he would finish it with his bare hands. He could have. Nobody in that room doubted it. But Lena stood in the doorway. She did not plead. She did not command. She simply looked at him as if the life after this moment mattered more than the rage inside it. Asa released Orrin's collar. "Marshal," he said, breathing hard, "come get your prisoner." By noon, Judge Pike was in irons. Clerk Storrs was hiding behind his own desk. The sheriff had lost his badge. Orrin Pike was carried to a wagon with both wrists bound and his red cravat stuffed against a bleeding mouth. Lena signed 3 statements that day, not with a shaking mark, with her full name, Lena Mercer. Then, beneath it, in a hand that grew steadier with every letter, she signed the federal release that ended the bonded contract forever. Asa stood beside her in the marshal's office, refusing a chair because his ribs hurt too much to sit. When the clerk asked how the Willow Creek title should be recorded, Asa looked at Lena. The room went quiet. Then he slid the deed across the table. Half to her. Lena turned. Asa, no! You helped hold it. I do not want to be paid for being dragged into your trouble. His voice softened. It was never my trouble alone. She looked at the deed. For years, paper had followed her like a chain. Marriage paper, debt paper, transfer paper, sale paper. Now another sheet waited in front of her. But this one did not name her obligation. It named her ownership. She picked up the pen and signed. Willow Creek did not become peaceful overnight. No frontier ever did. Spring storms tore 2 acres of seed out of the ground. 1 cow died in July. Asa's ribs healed crooked. Lena woke from nightmares for months and kept the Navy revolver beneath her pillow until winter. But the cabin door stayed hers. Asa knocked every time. By the 2nd year, the granary crawl space was filled with stone. By the 5th, the old cabin had a new room on the east side, with glass windows and a red stove. By the 12th, Willow Creek Ranch ran 200 head of cattle and shipped oats by wagon to 3 mining towns. Over the next 36 years, their land record showed purchases, sales, weather losses, cattle counts, and tax receipts stacked year after year like proof against the men who once thought paper could turn a woman into property. People in Quartz Gulch later told the story in 100 ways. Some made Asa taller. Some made Orrin meaner. Some claimed Lena shot 3 men in the dark, which she always denied with a look that suggested denial was not the same thing as confession. But the part that never changed was the deed. The paper meant to hide a chain became the paper that broke one. Asa Flint had gone to Willow Creek to buy dirt. He came home carrying a human life the law had tried to name as collateral. And by the end, the only thing that truly changed hands was the lie that a woman could ever be owned.